Uh, Reporting overview. These three black rectangles basically talk about staff witnesses an incident and or receives a complaint. The next flow chart is they require oral reports of the incident within one school day to the principal or superintendent or designee. I'm going to reflect back to the 90s where I was writing a report about my students because I was very excited and on fire about being an art teacher. And with all teaching candidates, when you're in the classroom for the first year is the most exciting and the most difficult. And I remembered in my general or principles of education, the instructor, the professor told us to write incidents of each student's down as anecdotals to make sure there are no incidents or bruises or any affect that they may have. We want to be mindful of that and keep a log or a record, just like we would with their performance, also their externals and so forth. So in that I did an oral report, I went to my director principal and said, this is happening. I'm not sure I have this log. And so that was a way of an oral report when I was talking to someone that was like-minded and had the information, and the principal superintendent designee would then help me in the third rectangle box, black box, to report what was initially an oral report in writing within school days after making that oral report. The oral report is like a check-in, like what do I do? Help me manifest this report, making sure that it's not biased, explicit or implicit, and that it has all the facts and it's not giving my personal narrative or opinion. I'm not putting the I, me, my in it, that I'm just basically stating what happened, what occurred, when did it occur, the times, the time frame, were there witnesses, did I, the teacher, witness it, or was reported to me, using language like alleged victim and accused aggressor and any witnesses that had happened, and the time capsule in terms of when it indeed happened. So, reporting overview. A DAZA or Dignity Act incident reporting form should be easily accessible to parents, students, staff, and school-wide district website. It's on the school website. It's also in the DAZA resources in the DAZA website that we saw early in the earliest module, kind of unpacking the ins and outs of what the state puts out on the site with the PDFs and all the updates that as educators and administrators we need to be cognizant and aware of. All school employees, students, and parents must receive a copy of the reporting process at least annually meaning yearly. And usually it comes after July 1 because the fiscal year ends June 30th. Little kind of prior knowledge you need going into the field of a government sanctioned field such as public and charter schools. Review your reporting process and identify potential points of ambiguous information, and how can these incidents be clarified in your process and policy. These are reporting incidents and overviews that must be acknowledged when you are completing these forms and doing these government documents that you're signing and dating. Reporting appointed by the RFA, or what is called the Respect for All staff member. That is a staff member that is appointed by the principal and sometimes by the superintendent. They're trained, they're supervised, they've had a long time working with this. They receive the verbal and written reports, verbal meaning the oral reports, where you're just kind of taking a check like, is this okay? And they help you write that bias-based harassment, intimidation, and or bullying report within the 2 days that you're mandated after you do the initial oral report. Who should you report to the incidents of the RFA or any other school employee, or who should? Any student or scholar that believes that he, she, or they have been a victim or an alleged victim, or other students or parents that have witnessed this alleged behavior. Any staff member who witnesses the student-to-student bias-based behavior also or intimidation should also be included in this, and that they report to the RFA. School employees reporting. If you witness harassment, bullying, and or discrimination, or received an oral report or written report from a school staff member, student, or Success Academy or charter school scholar parent, you're required to make an oral report within one school day. After you submit that oral report to the principal, superintendent, or the RFA or designated persons or person, you file that report with the principal, superintendent, and or their designee no later than 2 school days after making that oral report. Excluding weekends, the oral report, if it's a Tuesday, the written report should be handed in by Thursday, end of day. Student reporting. If you are uncomfortable about making a report, you may email the Office of School and Youth Development or the OSYD, Respect for All Schools at nyc.gov. Examples of this reporting of a student or scholar would be within the procedures. They're not sure the regulation applies to them, or they previously made a report. There was an incident report filed, resolved, and the behavior is continuing. Other concerns could be about coming forward, that old snitches get stitches situation, or such insinuations or situations such as the OSC may determine the appropriate follow-up or action. Investigation. I need to do a checkpoint here as we progress into the final module of our Dignity Act or Dignity for All Students Act training seminar asynchronous. What is your role? In your best knowledge, owning what your role is, please take the time to write a sentence or more in 2 minutes of what your role is. You're submitting this in the interactive engagement box on your screen. Thank you for taking your time to reflect in terms of what your role is according to the Dignity Act with regard to reporting requirements for us as educators within this training seminar. What is not your role is the next prompt. You have 2 minutes to think about this, and I hope you know. Thank you for taking the time to know and acknowledge what your role is and what your role is not, according to the Dignity Act, in reporting requirements for us educators in New York State. The investigation begins within 24 hours after you file that report. That's the report that you did the oral report and the written report within the 2 days. The investigation within the team within your RFA must be completed within 5 business days after you submitted that written report. Some investigation steps that need to be owned within this training seminar are implemented by the principal as well as the DAZA designee. One, they interview the alleged victim and document that conversation. The same conversation that they had in the initial oral and written report, they're documenting it again, and they ask the alleged victim to prepare a written statement about the behavior, the description, when it occurred, and any witnesses. They interview the accused student and advise him or her or them that if the conduct has occurred, it must stop. 4, they ask the accused student to prepare a written statement, and they interview the witnesses and obtain their written statements. 6, they advise the parents and guardians of the accused students or the accused aggressor of the allegations, and they also, 7, advise the parents and guardians of the alleged victim of the allegations. 8, the alleged victim, and if the alleged victim informs the principal designees of safety concern, he, she, or they shall decide whether to inform the alleged victim's parents or guardians after considering privacy and safety concerns, as well as consult with the Office of General Counsel in making the decision. This is something that, as educators and within the Dignity Act, we're being proactive for safety concerns, possibly repurposing or sending the students to the appropriate settings where they'll be fostering civility, being productive within the school environment as well as learning. And 9, when the investigation verifies that the incident is indeed harassment, bullying, and or discrimination, the superintendent, principal, or designee, otherwise known as the RFA, take prompt action to end the harassment, bullying, and or discrimination, eliminating any hostile environment, creating a more positive school culture and climate, as well as preventing the reoccurrence of this behavior and ensuring that safety for the student or scholar and student to student against them who has behavior was directed initially. Verified incident material.